Friends, you're being mind controlled by Donald Trump and you must break free. Fortunately, we have the strong mind of Brian Stelter to help navigate this difficult time. The Daily Wire, watch, CNN dissects Trump's mind control on Americans, explains how to deprogram people on Thanksgiving. Thank you, Brian Stelter. Now, of all of the networks to claim that someone is being brainwashed, I can't say I'm surprised that it's CNN. But the reality is, no, Trump supporters are not brainwashed. And in fact, according to most research, conservatives can understand liberals, liberals can't understand conservatives. You look at Jonathan Haidt's research, the Moral Foundations test, then it stands to reason if anybody's being brainwashed, it's not the right, probably the left. But I don't want to say everybody always. There are certainly people on the right who believe literally everything Trump says, and there are people on the left who do read the news. But I think it's fair to say the tendency is that people on the left tend to not explore. They don't go on YouTube. They don't even watch videos. I mean, I'll tell you what. I made a tweet today about Star Wars because there's a new clip from the Star Wars movie where there's they're First Order jump troopers, basically stormtroopers with jetpacks. And I said, the clip shows they're shocked. I put a link to the Imperial jump trooper. I know this may be irrelevant to some of you. The point is, nobody looked at what the link was. They just said, Tim, there have always been stormtroopers with jetpacks. I'm like, that's literally what I said. So I know most people will do this. They'll ignore the story, read the headline, and carry on. But this idea among CNN, Brian Stelter, and their viewers that it's only the Trump supporters who are brainwashed is absurd. Everybody, okay, is getting trapped in echo chambers. We all know it, and the best thing you can do is watch as much as possible. Strangely, though, it tends to be the Trump supporters saying that. And on the left, Brian Stelter said, tune out the spin, showing a bunch of Fox News clips. No, don't tune it out. See what people have to say, including Brian Stelter. Let's read this story from the Daily Wire. They say CNN dissects Trump's mind control on Americans, explains how to deprogram people on Thanksgiving. Apparently, Trump supporters are victims of mind control, but fear not. CNN is on the case. During a segment on CNN's Reliable Sources, controversial, one-sided media critic Brian Stelter dissected the cult of President Donald Trump and his use of, yes, mind control. Now, I'll stop here, okay? I'll give Brian some credit. There was a tweet recently from a Trump email where Trump said not to listen to Hillary. And Brian pointed that out. Good, you should. You should listen to Hillary Clinton. You should listen to everybody. And also point out, for the most part, I'm clearly on a side, the freedom-loving libertarian side. But I think the thing about Brian Stelter is that when he's scraping the bottom of the barrel for content, he'll actually go towards like Donald Trump had typos and do a whole segment about it. And it's like, dude, look, man, if you can't admit that your viewers are trapped in a bubble, because I can say the same thing, right? There are Trump supporters in a bubble, there are liberals in a bubble, but data tends to show it tends to be the left, but it's not like literally everybody. To come out and say, excuse me, to come out and act like there's a cult, and he was promoting a book, and I think it's just, you know what, let's just read. During a segment on CNN's Reliable Sources, we read that, Stelter hosted mental health expert Stephen Hassan, who happens to be pushing a book called The Cult of Trump, to tackle the issue on Sunday's show. I define a destructive cult as an authoritarian pyramid-structured group with someone at the top who claims to have total power and total wisdom, and that uses the deception and control of behavior, information, thoughts, and emotions to make people loyal and dependent and obedient followers. Hassan told Stelter, as reported by BizPac Review. Which brings us to the first problem, Brian. I have repeatedly pushed back on your content. I'm not a Trump supporter. Never given him money. Won't. And won't vote for him. But I'm a media critic. You see, there's a big difference. If you want to act like all these Trump supporters in a cult, you have to explain people like Scott Adams, who is like more so like a tacit Trump supporter. I don't know if I don't want to ascribe to him what his beliefs are, but there are a lot of people who are kind of just in the position of Trump's not that bad. The media's lying. How do you then describe the intellectual dark web? They're not Trump supporters, but they certainly would push back on what you're saying. Yeah, the fact of the matter is, it's the CNN viewers who are trapped in this whirlpool. So for me, the issue between an ethical, healthy cult, the one you're in, is that it? Where you're free to think and free to leave versus a destructive cult. I'm referring to Trump's organization and followers as a destructive followership, as a destructive cult, where people are being fed propaganda and they're not being encouraged to think for themselves. So weird. Like the whole IDW, right? He continued, they're not being encouraged to really explore and look at details and arrive at their own conclusions. Much of what they're hearing is emotionally driven loaded words, thought-stopping and thought-terminating type cliches like fake news or build the wall or make America great again. Stelter then asked Hassan how one could prove Trump's supposed use of mind control. We can start with the pathological lying, which is characteristic of destructive cult leaders. The self-styled expert. Man, you are looking way too much into this. Trump is typically okay, here's the thing. When the media says Trump is lying, it's typically that Trump is just wrong. And that's it, right? So they're saying Trump is lying about Biden and Ukraine. No. Trump heard a story, and then it's like a game of telephone. So yeah, Trump is wrong, and he's wrong a decent amount of times. I don't listen to every single quote and do a fact check on them. But yeah, when Trump is wrong, and Trump does lie. Surprise, surprise. People in power lie. You know, I think like when Trump went to the hospital, I don't believe what his statement was for the most part, but it's also the implication that Trump is doing something nefarious. I think most of the time when Trump's misleading people or lying, it's to like protect his ego. And they look at it like he's trying to manipulate people with mind control techniques because Trump says stuff like we have the best of X or whatever. Or when Trump gets like a minor detail wrong, they call him a liar. And it's like, dude, you know what, man? I think it's fair to say ambivalent. Yeah, I know Trump lies. So what? So did Obama. So does Hillary. Trump probably lies way less than both of them combined. The Intercept even called Trump the most honest president we've had in a long time. And they were like, because Trump just blurts things out. You know, he just can't stop himself. He just talks about it. Anyway, let's read. Saying things in a very confident way that have nothing to do with facts or truthfulness. The blaming others and never taking responsibility for his own failures and faults. Shunning and kicking out anyone who raises questions or concerns about his own behavior. His use of fear-mongering immigration is a horrible thing. No. What are you talking about? That's not what cults do. Cults usually, well, I'm not going to get into it for the most part. We'll read on. But what you're describing is narcissism, arrogance. That's not necessarily what yeah, sure, that can play a role in cults, but come on. Hassan also suggested on CNN airwaves that Trump supporters be deprogrammed on Thanksgiving. Oh, really? The first step with anyone who's a true believer is contact with people that are outside the bubble. Cult leaders want to isolate their people. They want their family and friends to just disappear rather than keep engaged. Hey, did you read that article? What do you think of it? You know, I'll watch one of your shows, watch one of my shows. In other words, appealing to the person's true self, their authentic self, that wants to be a good person, that believes in America and democracy and truth. Which faction is it that's trying to censor speech? It's not the conservatives and the Trump supporters, I'll tell you that. For the people who are dreading Thanksgiving, you're saying it's an opportunity. Yeah, they're dreading it because they're in the cult. Exactly. We're family, we're friends, let's talk. And you know, truth will come out. Truth will stand up to scrutiny. But you know what? At least they're saying that much. Yes, come Thanksgiving, talk to your friends, talk to your family. Stelter has repeatedly been criticized for his partisanship, though he claims to be an objective media observer. That is absolutely not true. Most recently, a massive ABC scandal barely made a blip on Stelter's radar, and when it did, Stelter defended the news network. Let me tell you something. Brian Stelter is not an electoral partisan, but he is a culture war partisan. He only ever cares to talk about what the right-wing media is doing, but I'll tell you what. I think it's fair to point out that I typically point to the mainstream press and what Brian Stelter is doing. Absolutely. Stelter is talking about the underdog for, to an extent. But more importantly, when you have to dig to like Donald Trump has typos, come on, man. You could have talked about something else. There were so many other issues that Brian Stelter could talk about as opposed to Donald Trump's typos, and he won't do it. Notably, he won't talk about ABC because it's part of his tribe, and he doesn't want to accept it. Well, let's read a little bit more. As noted by the Daily Wire video from James O'Keefe Project Veritas, it showed ABC anchor Amy Robach detailing, Jeffrey Epstein and all that stuff. Yeah, right. So I'll ask this question. This is from, I believe it was Jesse Kelly. He said, in that interview, ABC News anchor said, we had Clinton. We had everything. They had evidence on presumably Bill Clinton. Brian Stelter, don't you think that would be a very important subject to bring up when dealing with media? Don't you think you should have ran a segment talking about the issue of why? Even if you want to agree with ABC, couldn't you sit down and say, let's talk about why ABC might have done this? No. Instead, it's like, Orange Man bad. Once again. Well, yeah, I get it. I get who butters your bread. I'll tell you what. I have no problem making a video, and if it does bad, it does bad. Whatever, man. Whatever. You know, I made a video the other day about some social justice activist, and some people disliked it. Oh, woe is me. Yeah, every so often I get some videos that get downvoted. I did a debate with Sam Cedar. Got way thumbs down. Don't care. I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. It is what it is. And I get it. To an extent, you'll do the same thing. But I got to admit, when you do a segment about Trump's typos and you accuse Trump supporters of being in a cult, yeah, I'm going to have to go ahead and say I think you're operating in bad faith. But I'll leave it there. Sorry, Trump supporters. Unless you want to watch Brian Stelter, you're going to have to be stuck in your cult. Stick around. I got a couple more segments coming up in a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.